That smarmy vizier could have had him. If someone had stuck around to give him a hand.
Hey, I did my part. I brought the princess, didn't I?
Jafar was beyond help, consumed by his own hatred. One should beware of letting it burn too fiercely.
Whoa, lighten up. I'm as cool as they come, okay? By the way, kid, have we got something special for you?
Huh?
We had a deal, yes? You help us, and we grant you your wish.
Kyrie!
Go to her. Your vessel is waiting.
Just remember, this is no pleasure cruise. It won't be a pleasant voyage.
Why are you doing all this for me? What's the catch?
Catch? What's the catch? Silly boy. You're like a son to me. I only want you to be happy.
I seriously doubt that.
Believe what you wish. But lest we forget, I kept my end of the bargain.
Learn to summon spell genie. Here, take this with you. And we get the 3 Wishes Keyblade, as well as Green Trinities. Sora, please find Jasmine for me. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. In the last part we finished up the plot for the world of Agrabah here, and now we're going to move on to some side gigs before we actively access our next world. Starting off though, let's actively go read the Ansem report we got in the journal at the end of last time. Ansem's report 1. Much of my life has been dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. That knowledge has guarded this world well, not a soul doubts that. I am blessed with my people's smiles and respect. But though I am called a sage, there are things I do not understand. I believe darkness sleeps in every heart, no matter how pure. Given the chance, the smallest drop can spread and swallow the heart. I have witnessed it many times. Darkness. Darkness of the heart. How is it born? How does it come to affect us so? As ruler of this world, I must find the answers. I must find them before the world is lost to those taken by the darkness. We're going to get Ansem reports after beating various bosses throughout the rest of the game, so get used to me reading them here and again, with probably a very inconsistent voice, if I had to guess. We can revisit some places and unseal more trinities. Wasn't there a trinity mark in the accessory shop? Could this torn page be from Merlin's book? Let's return to town and give it to him. Now, I didn't even talk about this last time, but we actually did get a torn page in one of the treasure chests in the underground layer of the Cave of Wonders, and we can actually take that back to Merlin to access another chunk of 100 Acre Wood. But first, we're also going to go around grabbing some trinities we can get now that we have the green trinities. And there's actually one here in this room right next to the tunnel warp point here in Deep Jungle that's really hard to see because it blends in just so perfectly with the green floor. Don't know what they were thinking there, honestly. While we're doing this, though, let's talk about what we ended up getting right there. First off, let's talk about the 3 Wishes Keyblade. This is probably one of my favorite Keyblades for the mid-game. It boosts Sora's strength by a flat 6, has a 1x crit hit ratio, a medium length, but it has a noticeably high invisible recoil stat of 60, which means combined with the native 40 every character has, means it has a recoil of 100, meaning you're going to probably be able to deflect most attacks coming your way if you have this Keyblade equipped. Worth noting, I do try to show off most Keyblades in the game, but there's some I just don't because I either have better options or they were just outclassed by ones added in Final Mix in a lot of cases. For right now, though, let's also talk about Genie as a summon. He's an interesting one. After summoning him, he'll mark enemies near him with a Genie mark. That counts as a secondary lock-on of sorts. Using his unique Showtime command at that point, we'll use some of his MP and have him randomly cast one of several different attacks, ranging from a Thunder spell, a Gravity spell, a Stunning attack, an attack that blows enemies away, one that inflicts continuous damage, and a spell very reminiscent of Stop from Final Fantasy. He's got some really good toolkit and honestly pretty good damage across what his attacks are from memory. But he's also radically random. Thus, I tend not to use him too much. Genie's equivalent summon in Kingdom Hearts 2 is much more useful in my eyes. But even then, you're not going to see me use too many summons in this LP as it is outside of like 3 specific ones in specific fights. Now, this isn't quite the Trinity, but if you actively come back to Olympus Coliseum after getting the Blizzara upgrade from Jafar, we can actively now put out the torches here at Olympus Coliseum, and by putting out all 8 with Blizzara, we're actually going to get a chest to spawn in. There's been playthroughs I've actually forgotten this chest exists at all, and I think that's largely tied to the fact there's actually 2 treasure chests tied to doing exactly this. For doing it with Blizzara, we're going to get the Holy G Gummy Block, but if you come back here again when we eventually get Blizzaga, you can get a different chest. And I think in my head, I just assume Blizzaga's required for both sometimes, or something like that. It's just something I'm kind of iffy on for some reason. And with that, let's finally head over to Traverse Town and use the Green Trinity here in the accessory shop to finally access the 2nd floor. Now, I've said a specific word several times throughout this LP, and it's time to finally explain what I mean by that: synthesis. The 2nd floor of the accessory shop is the synthesis shop. This is arguably the longest term quest in the game, depending on if you do it at all to begin with, but there's also some Dalmatians up here on top of some other items. Plus, there's a poster you can also read for a, postcard, actually, to send in on the mailbox. First, you have to listen to his explanation, Kupo. We can use your items to make unusual new items, Kupo. Let us make something for you, Kupo. Bring back a bunch of items from your travels, Kupo. So, synthesis is effectively item creation. By using certain items in the recipes they give you, you can actually make often stronger items out of it from just things dropped by enemies. There's actively 33 recipes in the game, but you only unlock them 6 at a time. Upon creating these first 6, you'll gain access to the next 6. There's a lot of really useful equipment and consumables you can make through synthesis that I tend not to bother too much with, at least here in Kingdom Hearts 1. The grind just isn't my favorite thing to do for this specific game, especially with the new enemies and materials added in Final Mix, like some of the ones we've seen and talked about already, like the Black Ballads. I do it all here in the LP, but I save it all for a grinded endgame to get it all done at once. That does mean I don't get most of its benefits though, as ideally the best way to farm is to complete a set of worlds and plot, and then farm the enemies in those worlds for as many synthesis materials as you can potentially hold in order to make the recipes when they're more relevant. Because say like, a recipe in the first 12, for instance, if it's an accessory, is going to be a lot weaker than a recipe at the very end of that set just because they'll require later game items. And while I was in Traverse Town, I figured I might as well drop off what Dalmatians I found in Agrabah on top of anything else since, just to see if I get another reward, which, hey, get this, I did! This is the reward for 30 Dalmatians turned back in. This is a Thundara G Gummy Block for Gummy Ship customization that I might use at some point, maybe. So from here, our next destination is going to be heading back to Merlin, as I want to go use the torn page we got back in the Cave of Wonders to explore more of the 100 Acre Wood. I was a bit conflicted on how to actually handle this world, I won't lie, as part of me just wanted to kind of hold it all off till the end and get it all done at once, but then I wouldn't really benefit from the rewards we get along the way. Plus, between the idea of spamming this world on top of the synthesis grinding, that would have made endgame torturous, so I opted to progress 100 Acre Wood as we got the new pages.
Hello? Is anyone there? What am I to do? I'm all alone. Pooh! Pooh! Where are you? It's me, Piglet.
If you approach Piglet from the front, he actively runs away from you, so you do need to sneak up on him from behind, which is pretty easy to do, thankfully.
Oh dear, I was just, never mind. I'm sorry.
Don't be scared. You're looking for Pooh, right?
You know Pooh. You see, I have something for him. I have to take it to Pooh right away. Oh, Pooh!
Oh, I believe I smell a delicious something. A something like honey.
Pooh!
Hello, Piglet. How have you been?
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. I thought you'd gone away. I brought what you asked for.
Thank you, Piglet. Now I can finally have some honey.
Really? But how?
I shall hold on to the balloon and fly like a bee up the honey tree, see?
But if you take their honey, won't the bees be angry?
Oh,
Oh, Pooh, you silly bear. If you could only chase away those bees, I'm quite certain I could get a small morsel of honey. Would you help me get some honey? Should I help Pooh get some honey? Sure. Oh, hello there, Owl. Good day, Pooh. What are you doing? Using a balloon to get some honey? Splendid idea. Allow me to offer a few pointers. Ahem. Now Pooh can get his honey by floating up this tree with his balloon. The honey is inside the tree hollows, not the beehives you see here. There's quite a lot of honey in these holes. If Pooh gets too close, the bees will come out to protect their honey. If they get to Pooh, they'll pop his balloon, lock onto the bees, and swat them away. The more time Pooh has at each hollow, the more honey he can eat. There's more honey higher up, too. If jumping from branch to branch proves difficult, try the rush command. Rush can help you catch up to Pooh quickly, but it isn't fully reliable. Good luck. So, full disclosure, this is actually my second take at the minigame because I completely messed up the first one at the last second, at least when it comes to getting everything done. We have 3 minutes to sit here and help Pooh get honey. As Pooh is at one of the holes, as Owl said, bees will attempt to attack him. By default, you can just go into them directly to try and hit them, but I find it safer to just stand on a branch, lock onto them, and then use the default hit command. As after hitting them, usually Sora will do an immediate hop afterwards to try and land back on one of the branches nearby, usually even the next one up on the tree. The rush command that Owl talks about is useful for catching up with Pooh, especially if you fall down, but worth noting, every attempted use of it actually eats up some of your honey eaten score at the top left. I believe for both the final reward here in 100 Acre Wood as well as the Jiminy Journal completion, we want to finish this minigame with a score of over 100, which is pretty safe to do as long as you're not completely messing up at the first hole every time. And since this is our first time seeing it like this, 100 Acre Wood's main purpose across the series is just to be a world of minigames with usually pretty lax conditions to just finish them, but at times, depending on the game, weirdly strict requirements to get the full Jiminy Journal completion mark on them. I'm looking at you, Kingdom Hearts 2. This being by and large a 100% LP, that means of course I am actively doing everything here in 100 Acre Wood. Which admittedly, especially for Kingdom Hearts 1, is pretty standard for me. I don't know why, but whenever I replay Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 especially, I just feel the urge to complete every world like 100 Acre Wood, even if I don't get the Jiminy Journal completion stuff done. I guess there's just something about that feels right to have done every level, even if I don't get all the secrets, quote-unquote, in a level, so to speak. I mean, that's less prevalent in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, because that means there's an entire area I'm likely to just completely ignore, because you mostly can only access it after a post-game grind, but we'll talk more about the Final Mix stuff for that when I reach Kingdom Hearts 2 in however many years again. I do recall thinking at one point across my various playthroughs that some of these minigames across the series went on a little long, and in the case of actually the final minigame in this version of 100 Acre Wood, that can be the case. But as I've aged, I think what it actively is that some of these minigames go on too long for the complexity of them. This specific minigame, for instance, is 3 minutes long, but it probably could have done with even being 2 minutes to a minute and a half and just play with the speed values here and again to make it so that you're more actively on your toes all the same. But at the same time, given the source material that's being adapted here, it's also probably very intentional just to be a really big breather from the more complex, action-heavy worlds that you're going through elsewhere in the game. This is for you to do between worlds, just to take a breath from the action. Going back to voice actors really quick though, Piglet in this game is voiced by John Fielder, who voiced the character starting in the mid-60s for Disney until his death in 2005. He was also the voice of Father Sexton in Disney's Robin Hood, Deacon Owl in The Rescuers, Porcupine in The Fox and the Hound, and Rudy, the old man who threw off his groove in The Emperor's New Groove and its sequel. He was also Vinny in the original Odd Couple film back in the 60s.
It is rather funny what I will do for honey.
From now on, whenever we finish a level here in 100 Acre Wood, the torn page we use to get into it will then turn into an item. In this case, the first one we get turns into a nature spark, which is another summon gem we can take over to the fairy godmother to gain another summon. And this is one you really want to grab even if you don't really want to do 100 Acre Wood at large, as this is your best friend if you prefer to use magic in general. Hello, fairy godmother. I'm not looking forward to potentially attacking your world in a later game if it even exists. Oh, another summon gem. Let me help this little one. Here we go. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. This becomes Bambi. Bambi is the first summon we've had that is actively completely non-offensive. What Bambi does is bounce around the field, generating several MP bubbles whenever they bounce on a part of the level. Due to that, if you like using magic, be it spamming fire spells, chunking enemy HP with gravity, or even freezing enemies down the line, so to speak, with a later spell, Bambi is your best friend. There's also a surprisingly well-hidden mechanic with Bambi that leads to him spawning in synthesis materials depending on the world you're in. But I'll talk about that in more depth later on during the synthesis grind when it's a little more relevant, as I don't tend to use Bambi outside of very specific circumstances, even with my love of magic. With that, we're now done with Agrabah. We've done all the cleanup I want to do for now, so it's time for us to head to the 5-star battle level world. Along the way, I might as well note Piglet's Japanese VA. Piglet in this game in Japanese is voiced by Kiyoshi Komiyama, who actively traded back and forth voicing the character between himself and another VA, Mitsuru Ogata. Komiyama's been active in VA work since the 60s, doing a lot of side characters, even being a character in an episode of the 80s Astro Boy cartoon, or Pigmon in the original Ultraman series. He played Piglet starting sometime in the 70s, with his last role as the character being this game, as well as the character's representations in episodes of House of Mouse. He was also the primary Japanese voice for Linus from Peanuts for a good while there, and voiced Alakazam from Alakazam the Great, a 1961 musical animated feature that was actively a version of Journey to the West done by Toei Animation. Alakazam in this case was just the English release name for Son Goku. Also, I just realized I forgot to speed up this specific ship section, but oh well, I'm not redoing all that commentary, so we're just gonna do it live. Worth noting, you can beat the game's gummy routes that you do along the plot with just the base Highwind Excalibur model you start the game with, but it's going to be an uphill battle by late game and end game. The amount of obstacles, enemies, or the HP of anything involved along the way does get noticeably larger. At the very least, I recommend upgrading the base ship's blocks to some higher armor ones and adding some weapons along the way like I have. Whether you do more is up to you. Heck, you can even do less depending on your luck with what enemies drop blueprints. Alright, now if my memory serves about the level design, we should be coming up on the next world right about here, so let's see what we got coming up here. What Disney World are we venturing off to next? Why did that just fade out? What is that? Wow, it's huge! It's a giant whale! It's Monstro! He's a whale of a whale, and vicious besides! Whoa, Sora, get us out of here! Too late, he's going to swallow us! But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 17, we start off Monstro. See you guys then.